Hey guys, I just want to give you an update. I finished the book that I said I was going to read, Caraval, and I have to say I didn't super love it, but I think there's some good things in here to talk about. One, it uses some of like letters, which I thought was kind of a cool twist. The first chapter is like one line long, which I thought was really interesting, and that kind of grabbed me. But I actually thought this was a good example of like too much showing versus telling, where I felt like I had too much detail about things that I didn't really care about. So I'll read you the first little bit here in the second paragraph. Scarlett's feelings came in colors even brighter than usual, the urgent red of burning coals, the eager green of new grass buds, the frenzied yellow of a flapping bird's feathers. He'd finally written back. And parts of that are just not, like, I don't know what that means. So it's like the showing, it has, it didn't work for me. Now, this is a popular book. There's 3 books in the series, so clearly it works for somebody. But I just found it kind of distracting, where I wasn't really sure what that meant. And that's kind of how a lot of the descriptions were, where they were very poetic and not super straightforward. Another thing that I didn't really love about this book was she has a dress that keeps changing. It's a magic dress that kind of changes in different scenes, and I didn't care. So that often, like, one paragraph, half a page per chapter was about like what her dress looked like, and it didn't really help me with what the dress looked like. I didn't really know the time period this was supposed to be set in. I didn't know if it was kind of steampunk. I didn't really know what exactly I was looking for. So it didn't really help me. It kind of distracted me from the story. I would have rather spent more time on their character development and less on what she was wearing, or I wish what she was wearing had been clearer or more useful to the plot. So the basics is there is a magic kind of carnival game, and she's pulled into that world. So if you're interested in that idea, I actually have a different suggestion. I suggest The Night Circus, which is more of an adult book than a young adult book. But it has kind of that same idea that there's like a circus and magic. There's also a love story in this one as well as this one. So there is no second or third book to this, so it does kind of have a more satisfying ending. So if you're looking for something to read, and you looked at all of that's when you're like, oh, circus, that's cool, dark, edgy, try The Night Circus. I also just finished reading the sequel to One of Us is Lying, which is One of Us is Next. And One of Us is Lying is a pretty awesome book. I would say it's like The Breakfast Club meets murder mystery. So this next one is the sequel to that, of like the ramifications of what happened, but it does tell it through mostly new characters. So if you enjoyed the One of Us is Lying, you might enjoy One of Us is Next. What I did appreciate about this book is that it does sometimes sequels, especially when they introduce new characters, sort of forget about the old characters that you liked in the first place, and this one doesn't. It keeps them pretty centered, but also like to the side. They're not the main characters, but they do show up. Their world is still influenced by what happened to those characters in the first book. If you're a fan of thriller or if you're a fan of mystery, I do suggest these books. They are told, interestingly, through multiple perspectives, so you kind of get everyone's perspective, and you have to decide whether or not they're a reliable narrator, which is pretty cool. I figure out the twist in One of Us is Lying, the first one. I figured out the twist a little later in One of Us is Next, but it is still, like, some mysteries, I feel like sometimes you get to the end and you haven't had the clues you need to figure out the answers. But these you definitely do, so I would check these out. I also think they're making One of Us is Lying into a Netflix show, but I heard that a couple years ago and I haven't really heard about it since, so Anyway, One of Us is next. Some other things I thought I would show you guys if you're interested in writing are some writing craft books. So The Secret of Story is really awesome. If I remember correctly, I haven't read this book in probably a year, but it does sort of focus on someone who writes for TV. But it talks about like how you have to tell your story a certain way, how your scenes need to come together, and it was a really good read that had a lot of examples that I thought went well. Sometimes when you read craft books, they're mostly people telling you these lofty ideas, but they're not showing you how to do it. And I remember him being able to show you, like, through some examples, through some bullet points, kind of what he's trying to say. I haven't read this one yet, but this is on my list to do in the next upcoming days while we are apart, which is about character arcs and really deciding like how your character changes. And I think one of the reasons why in the first book that I showed you today I didn't super love it is because the character arcs weren't that great. I feel like it wasn't until the very end that the character changed instead of changing over time in an arc versus so this is something that I am going to be checking out, and I'll tell you guys a little bit more about it probably in the next video I make. I am looking at my bookshelf right now. Bookshelf. Yay for books. So I'll find some more books to give you guys some reviews on, hopefully some ones that I haven't already given you guys reviews on in class. And I'll let you know what I keep reading. Alright guys, be good.